Iraqi President Saddam Hussein might never have been caught by the United States if he hadn't had a liking for an Iraqi dish called masgouf. For 32 weeks, the U.S. Army tried everything possible, but there was no trace of Iraq's former president. This mission involved not just the U.S. military working day and night, but also the U.S. Special Forces, the CIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, and even the FBI playing significant roles.
Thousands of people from these agencies were dedicated to finding just one man. Why was Saddam Hussein considered such a threat to America? And in the end, how did they find him buried 6 feet underground in a hidden hole? This story begins after the 9/11 attacks in America, when Al-Qaeda carried out strikes on New York and Washington, D.C. The whole world saw America's anger at that time. Then U.S. President George Bush decided that anyone who supported terrorism would be targeted. Even though Saddam Hussein, who was Iraq's dictator at the time, was not directly involved in 9/11, America believed that Saddam indirectly supported various terrorist groups. But this allegation alone wasn't enough for a direct attack on Iraq. It was certain that the U.S. wanted to end Saddam Hussein's grip on Iraq, where he had ruled in various capacities for 24 years. So to justify attacking Iraq and ending Saddam's rule, America began claiming that Saddam was hiding weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear weapons. Using this claim as the foundation, in March 2003, America attacked Iraq, joined by military forces from the UK, Australia, and Poland. Within just 3 weeks of fighting, they reached Baghdad, the Iraqi capital. On the very first day of the invasion, Saddam Hussein vanished without a trace. When U.S. troops entered Baghdad, they found no sign of him. U.S. tanks and soldiers took control of the city, toppling Saddam's 24-year-old regime. In Baghdad's famous Firdos Square, they pulled down Saddam's statue to celebrate their victory. But while the statue had fallen, capturing the real Saddam Hussein was not going to be so easy. Now, finding Saddam and his top government officials became the U.S. military's top priority. Every U.S. soldier was given full authority to capture Saddam and his 51 top officials, dead or alive. There were 52 people on this most wanted list. To make their faces memorable, special playing cards were printed with the pictures of Saddam and his officials, 52 cards for 52 targets. Soldiers would see these faces repeatedly, even while playing cards in their free time. For months, the U.S. military searched every inch of Iraq, raiding homes, questioning relatives, checking shops, colleges, and mosques. They only knew that Saddam was still in Iraq, but not where exactly. This went on for months, but Saddam and his 2 sons remained missing. The U.S. then announced a reward $55 million for information, $25 million for Saddam, and $15 million each for his 2 sons. Many Iraqis were against Saddam, so the U.S. believed that even for money, someone would talk. And that's exactly what happened. One man came to a U.S. military base and claimed that Saddam's sons Uday and Qusay were hiding in his house. At first, no one believed him, but when the U.S. surrounded the house, they discovered the claim was true. The sons refused to surrender, as they were heavily armed. After several failed attempts to get them out, the military launched a missile attack on the house. When soldiers entered, they found both Uday and Qusay dead. This meant the last big lead to Saddam's location was gone. Still, the U.S. military didn't give up. They captured several of Saddam's associates alive, but none revealed his whereabouts. 4 months passed, and the situation reached a point where the U.S. military began to think Saddam might have been killed in some attack. As this belief grew, their efforts to find him slowed down. No military operations or intelligence reports suggested he was still alive. But then, an audio tape changed everything. It was Saddam's voice expressing grief over his sons' deaths. This meant Saddam was still alive. America resumed the hunt with full force, increasing the reward on Saddam from $25 million to $30 million, and also promising U.S. citizenship to anyone who provided the information. The huge reward prompted many Iraqis to give false tips, hoping to get rich, which only made the search harder. By this time, almost all the people on the playing cards most wanted list had been captured except for a few, including Saddam. At this point, Defense Intelligence Agency Sergeant Eric Maddox decided to think differently. He realized that most on the list were Saddam's top government officials, whose power came from Saddam, not the other way around. At this time, Saddam would need his personal bodyguards more than anyone else. Saddam's bodyguards were divided into three groups: those who guarded his palace, those who went ahead to secure any location he planned to visit, those who stayed with him at all times. Maddox believed Saddam now needed the third group the most. He went to Saddam's hometown, Tikrit, to track them down. There, he interrogated the son of one of Saddam's bodyguards, Mohammed Ibrahim Omar. But Omar himself was missing. Later, Maddox met one of Saddam's old servants, who didn't provide much, except for one crucial detail. Saddam loved a fish dish called masgouf, made in Iraq. Maddox remembered that Omar's son had mentioned his father loved fishing and owned a fish farm in a city called Samarra. When Maddox reached the fish farm, Omar wasn't there, but two fishermen were. One turned out to be the cousin of an Iraqi guerrilla fighter. After Saddam's regime was toppled, his close military officials had launched guerrilla warfare against U.S. forces, believed to be led by Omar, Saddam's closest bodyguard. The fisherman also mentioned an uncle who lived in Baghdad. Maddox and his team surrounded that house, hoping for a lead. And to their shock, Mohammed Ibrahim Omar was hiding there. Omar, who often sent masgouf fish from his farm to Saddam, was now leading guerrilla attacks against the U.S. He was the only one who knew Saddam's true location. At first, he refused to talk, but after Maddox promised U.S. citizenship for him and his family, Omar began speaking. He revealed that Saddam was hiding in the town of Ad-Dar. Acting on his tip, U.S. troops searched the town along the Tigris River. There were two farmhouses nearby, both empty. Then Omar, who was with the troops, pointed to the ground where a rope was lying. The rope led underground to a spider hole covered with styrofoam. When soldiers opened the hole, they saw nothing but darkness. One soldier was about to throw a hand grenade inside when suddenly two hands appeared from the hole. A bearded man emerged, saying, "My name is Saddam Hussein and I am the president of Iraq." The U.S. military had captured Saddam alive. After 32 weeks of relentless effort, Maddox's strategy had paid off. Analysts later noted that if Maddox hadn't discovered Saddam's love for masgouf, he might never have found him. In the end, the weapons of mass destruction, the main reason for the U.S. invasion, were never found. Even President George Bush later confirmed that they didn't find anything.